to go. Just making a couple of last minute changes, hoping not to have the issues that we had yesterday. Had a couple of little glitches and bits and pieces happen, but I think we're there now. How are we all doing? Sally's in the chat as well. Hello, Sally. How's it going? Anna, hello, hello. Paladin Gaming, how's it going? Shall we jump straight into the talking points of the day then? Have a little look at where the drivers are, what they're up to. And the weather, if you haven't got it in front of you, it has been raining pretty heavily in Australia. It's going to add a little bit of a spanner to the works. We were all predicting it, and the teams half knew there was going to be a wet weather race here in Melbourne, but I don't know if they were expecting it to be quite as bad as it is. It is pretty torrential. It has stopped raining as it is, but there's enough standing water on the track that probably going to be starting at least on intermediates. There might be a few drivers who decide to give it a little bit of a gamble and go for the full wet tyres. And this is where, as a McLaren fan, I am slightly concerned. And actually, as a few different fans, I'm slightly concerned. Thank you, Winford, for following the channel on Twitter. That would be on Twitter, on Twitch. Oh my God, on Twitch. F1 is back indeed. Hello, Josh, mate. I heard it was a thunderstorm. Yes, it has been pretty torrential. Like, I've been watching the kind of build up and the driver parade and bits and pieces just whilst I've been getting the stream set up, and there's been a lot of water. Now, it's been pretty bad. Again, we get a lot of rain in the UK. But even I'm saying it's been pretty bad. It's not sort of falling anymore as such. It should be on the way to drying up. There's Lewis Hamilton on the full wet weather tyres. So there you have it. At least Lewis Hamilton for now on the full wet tyres. Still 20 odd minutes to go, 24, 25 minutes until we actually get into the full event. But some possibilities of tyres going all over the place. Intermediates, wets, who goes where. Will it then dry up as the race continues? We'll have to wait and see. It's going to be a weird race. It's going to be a very, very weird race, which is not what you want if you're a McLaren fan. But there we are. Nothing like destroying our sleep schedules to watch Formula One. It's one of those, isn't it? Do you go back to bed? Do you stay in bed? Some of you guys are probably still in bed, just sort of got this up on a monitor to one side. Who else is thinking? Charles, World Constructors Champion. Charles all by himself. A little bit harsh on Hamilton there, but maybe he is going to carry the team to a Constructors Championship. Look, McLaren have won a Constructors Championship. If Ferrari really want it, they can have it. Have the Constructors Championship. I'll have the Drivers' Championship. How about that? I'm at 3:30 this morning. I think everyone is, well, at least if you're UK based, which a lot of my audience is. Although all of the American audience and all of the Australian audience are maybe a little bit happier. Okay, they normally join us at some pretty weird and wonderful times. So maybe it is in the cards, or on the cards, in the cards, on the cards, that actually we have to have a couple of these races throughout the season, don't we? Otherwise, it would be a bit too much for us. It'd be too nice if we got all of the races in our favour. Oh, getting quite a few follows over on Twitter. On Twitch. Twitter doesn't even exist anymore. It doesn't even exist. Oh, dear. Yeah, I know what you meant, James, but, I'd quite happily take the Constructors' Championship to Ferrari and deliver that to them. There you are. Enjoy. I'll have the Drivers' Championship. Happy for this one? Normally 3, 4 a.m. That's what I mean. I feel like we got to give back, haven't we? As European fans, got to have a few races of the season that are a little bit awkward in timings for us. Although less and less European races on the calendar, I will point out, slowly being replaced. But then even some of the American race, like Las Vegas, is still at midnight for you guys. So it's all a little bit strange, isn't it? How they decide on the times. It will always be Twitter to me. Rest in peace. Give the rookies a good trial by water. Yeah, it's a bit harsh, isn't it? A bit harsh indeed. Shall we have a little look at the predictions? So if you guys that are maybe a little bit newer here or didn't get involved, on the community tab, now called the posts tab, on the channel, early in the week, I will always put up a predictions little, column for you guys to fill in. Hello, Gamer Nation, go. His first words in the chat. Big fan. Little love heart. Love that. How are you doing? I will always put up some predictions for you guys to make. It's just a quick survey where you get to pick your winner, your podium drivers, a surprise for the weekend. Now, normally this is supposed to be good surprise. You can see how you feel once I show you what you guys have predicted. Best team for the weekend, the struggle of the weekend, and the flop team as well. So 4, positives. You can be nice to 4 drivers, and then you got to choose a driver and a team to kind of fall away from the rest. Why is the live called Australia GP qualifying? Oh, is it? Not sure. Thank you. It's probably because I clicked on the wrong timing sheet as for what we were looking at. Here we go. We'll change it. We'll change it. Thank you for letting me know. Otherwise, that would have been very awkward. People would be like, hang on, qualifying on a Sunday? Are we at the Brazilian Grand Prix? No. We are very much in Melbourne. Drivers ready and raring to go. First race of the season. It's nice to have Melbourne back as the first race of the season. Something that I haven't touched upon, but I will touch upon. Bing. There we go. As a Sainz fan, I hope it wasn't like Sao Paulo 2024. Yeah, Sainz didn't have the best of days. Although most drivers didn't have the best of days, unless you were Max Verstappen and Alpine. Everyone else kind of had a little bit of an up and down afternoon in Brazil, didn't they? Who do I think will be on the podium with the McLarens? George, Max, anybody else? Let's have a little look. So the survey said Max Verstappen out of the podium places. The winner, Lando Norris. Starting on pole position, not a bad shout, looking okay. Charles Leclerc. Now, when it comes to the Ferraris, I know people are a little bit disappointed from yesterday's performance, right? Everyone was expecting the Ferraris to be right up there, possibly in contention with the McLarens for that win. I think the Ferraris have got a little bit under their sleeve because what was the problem for Ferrari yesterday was the fact that they were overheating when it came to the final sector, which meant they were basically putting a little bit too much energy through their tyres due to the aerodynamic setup that they had. I think that might have been the case because they were setting up for a wet race today. So I think that the Ferrari car might be set up a little bit better for the wet weather conditions. That would make sense because you do need to put a little bit more temperature into the tyres when it is wet. The intermediate tyres, the full wet tyres in particular, are really hard to get up to temperature otherwise. So I think that Ferrari might have played the long game a little bit here. I think they're a little bit disappointed. I think they thought they'd be still a bit closer to the front. But I also feel like they might have had an eye on Sunday. 'Cause you got to remember, Ferrari used to be all about the Saturdays, didn't they? And not the band, the Saturdays, as in they used to be all about qualifying. And they used to be by far and away the most rapid team when it came to qualifying. Now, it does feel like we're moving in a slightly different direction. And Ferrari are sort of focusing all their efforts on Sundays. They're not the qualifying masters that they used to be, but they are much quicker when it comes to race pace. And I'm worried that they've kind of moved the car even more in that direction, and then also set up the car specifically for the rain, for the conditions that have now come true. So you left your wife and kids for this race. I feel like that's fine, as long as you didn't leave them, for good. Don't get my Ferrari hopes up. Can't take it anymore. Apologies. That's just my theory. That's just a theory, a Formula One theory. But whether or not that comes true, obviously we'll have to wait and see. But I just feel like they can't have been so much slower than we were expecting them to be. The Ferrari car surely, don't call me surely can't have been as bad as it was yesterday in qualifying, considering how good Ferrari usually are when it comes to qualifying. I know that the Australian Grand Prix is a little bit out of the norm in terms of track layout, but still getting all the way to the third sector and then the tyres being so over temperature to the extent that Lewis Hamilton obviously had a spin because he just lost the grip on the tyres. Not so sure. Really hope Oscar wins. Oscar's on the podium in terms of the predictions, but obviously, yes, starting second place, right next to... We know he's not going to let Lando Norris have the lead. You know what I mean? It is not the kind of race. This is going to be a very much a Monza 2024 starting scenario in my head. I think the fact that Oscar is right there, it's his home Grand Prix, it's the first Grand Prix of the season. I don't think he's going to make it very easy at all for Lando Norris going down towards turn 1 or turn 3 or turn 8. Like, all of the turns, to be honest with you. He's going to make it an absolute headache for Lando Norris. What happened to Ferrari? Well, this is the thing. Scroll back a little bit. I've given a little bit of a theory as to what I think happened to the Ferraris, but we'll kind of see once the race rolls around, to be honest. What's my thoughts on Haas will do this year? I really hope this is good. I think, again, it's a little bit of an outlier weekend. We can't take everything from this weekend and have it as sort of gospel. I think there's going to be some ups and downs from all of the teams. And the Australian Grand Prix is not necessarily the most representative track of the Formula One calendar. I think just with the fact that Friday went so badly for Ollie Behrman, obviously didn't have any running on a Friday, then didn't get to qualify properly. He didn't have a great time last time he drove in the wet. But I've got hope for him. I've got hope for Ollie Behrman. I don't want to be too down on him too quickly. And Esteban Ocon, again, is pretty good in the wet. Look back to Brazil last year. Managed to get himself on the podium. That would be very impressive from 19th. Not going to lie. But we'll have to wait and see. Completely agree with my predictions. These are not my predictions, to be honest with you. These are the community predictions. Of course, I put my votes in there. But there's a whole, I think it was like 400 votes across all of these different topics. Biggest good surprise or bad surprise for Kimi? It's normally supposed to be a good surprise. People were looking forward to seeing Kimi, but with the qualified yesterday, maybe you could say that that's turned around a little bit. It turned into a bad surprise. Liam Lawson struggling, though. People did call. Will it continue into today? We'll have to wait and see. Best team McLaren so far looks good. Flop team Aston Martin. It's looking like Haas, to be honest with you, at the moment. But again, we've got the race to come. Anything could change, especially in these conditions, because it is all over the place when it comes to the Australian Grand Prix right now. Oh, and Max Verstappen saying that he's struggling a little bit. Where was he? A lot of standing water at turn 5. And that almost sent Max Verstappen away on the, not even the formation lap, on the lap coming to the grid. Did the race already happen? It did not happen. Hence why these are predictions. If it happened, surely that would be happened, not predictions. Whatever the opposite of predictions is. Shall we have a look then? Our 20 drivers. In fact, why don't we look at the actual grid rather than the Drivers' Championship? Because the Drivers' Championship tells us nothing at all at the moment. Lando Norris, top of the tree after qualifying yesterday. His teammate Oscar Piastri behind him. Sort of what we expected in terms of a McLaren 1-2. Hello, James Applicable. Thank you. How's it go? Yuki Fan 22 official must be very, very happy right now. When will it happen? Do you wear wigs? When will you wear wigs? About 10 minutes time. We are about 10 minutes away from the start of the Australian Grand Prix. Both of the McLarens at the front of the standings. As I say, slightly expected. I think if you were going to ask people which team were most likely to get a 1-2, they would have said McLaren. But they've still got to go out there and deliver it, especially after Lando Norris didn't get a banker lap in. And even Oscar's banker lap wasn't tremendous yesterday. So went out, delivered, but there's still 58 laps between them and a victory to start this 2025 season. Of course, Constructors' Champions coming into this year. Very interesting. Am I using multi-viewer? I am. Hence the little multi-viewer logo right there. There's also a multi-viewer hat just behind the chat over there. We are very much sponsored by multi-viewer. Lovely people over at multi-viewer. How's the weather? Wet. Not raining, but still wet, very wet. Lots of areas of the track where there's still some standing water, and a lot of the tyres at the moment, full wet tyres. McLaren built a SpaceX. Goodness. Max Verstappen starts in 3rd place behind the 2 McLaren cars. Maybe one of the surprises coming into this weekend. Max Verstappen was not a happy man coming into this weekend, but seems to have saved the day a little bit when it's come to that Red Bull car. And again, Max Verstappen just knows when to turn up, doesn't he? He's always unhappy. No, the car's not where I want it. Bang, 3rd place. Could have maybe even been better. Made a tiny little bit of an error towards the end of the lap, did Max Verstappen. Just couldn't quite get that 3rd sector hooked up in the same way, which again, I know I shouldn't be horrendously negative at this point, but I am worried that the Red Bull is also set up a little bit better for the wet weather conditions than the McLaren cars. Because again, Max Verstappen's tyres were overheating towards that final sector, which is why he was losing a little bit of time. Or at least it looked like they were overheating towards that final sector. At least then looking at Liam Lawson's issues, that would make sense that the tyres were outside of that operating window towards the end of the lap because he went off of the penultimate corner. I feel like the Red Bulls also set themselves up a little bit more for the wet weather conditions and maybe were running the tyres a little bit hot yesterday because of that. Now we're going to have to wait and see if Max Verstappen is set up better for the wet weather conditions than the McLaren cars. It's going to ruin a video that I had coming up, but I was banking on Max Verstappen not winning this race, if I'm honest with you. But even if he does, actually, it won't matter to the video too much. Give you a little hint as to what's coming up on the channel later on. George Russell will start beside him in 4th place. I think Mercedes are very happy with a 4th place start, considering where they were. But 2 drivers that are even more happy than that. Yuki Tsunoda, the 2nd highest ranked Red Bull driver. What can we say? Did they make the right decision very early to be throwing those kind of accusations at them? But Oscar Spokes is saying it. I think Red Bull are regretting not promoting Yuki Tsunoda. I couldn't possibly say but maybe I agree with you. Yuki Tsunoda down there in 5th place, 3rd row of the grid, and looking at a possible podium place, to be honest with you. I know that we said this again in Brazil. It does have airs of Brazil, doesn't it? The RB cars up there. Yuki Tsunoda looking like he could do something a little bit special, but still a long way to go. And RB, AlphaTauri as they used to be, did usually like a bit of a weird strategy call. I'm hoping they've kind of got that out of their system now. But it wouldn't surprise me if the RB team go for some random strategy call that no one's really expecting. And then it could all go wrong. Think Yuki dodged a bullet? That's the other perspective, isn't it, Sally? That's the other side of the coin. It's like, oh, okay, actually, mate, that Red Bull looks horrendous because Liam Lawson was actually pretty decent last year in the 6 races that we saw, or 5 races that we saw. And then it's all gone downhill. All gone downhill in the first race in a Red Bull. I think that might be his worst qualifying in Formula One. And now he's in the faster car, supposedly. So that just shows you a little bit of everything that you need to know. Alex Albon starts in 6th place for a Williams. A Williams? Goodness me. Up there in 6th place. Where have Williams found that pace from? Again, I'm a little bit nervous that they set themselves up for the drier conditions and kind of gambled. But 6th place for Alex Albon nonetheless, and it's hard to get past. We have seen some defensive masterclasses from Alex Albon over the last few years. Canada brings back memories where he just defended for his life for those first points that he got in a Williams car. I really hope that he can get some points on the board for Williams this weekend and sort of start their season off with a bit of a bang. The two Ferraris is what I'm thinking. In 7th and 8th, just behind. Again, I wouldn't say that that's where they're going to finish. I am a little bit hesitant to be too negative on the Ferraris off the basis of just qualifying. I want to see what their race pace is like before I start throwing them in the bin for the season. And again, 24 races are a long season. As we saw with McLaren last year, don't necessarily have to start out being the fastest to be the fastest by the end of the season. Constructors' Championship, Drivers' Championship, feel like both are going to go all the way once again, if I'm honest. Thank you for subscribing, Carlo. Appreciate that, mate. Thank you. I think we should wait a couple more races to judge Liam. Oh, yeah, definitely. Definitely. But the final 2 drivers starting in the points. Pierre Gasly, another Red Bull Junior, of course. Could have been in that Red Bull seat. Now in 9th. And then Carlos Sainz, another Red Bull driver. Could have been in that Red Bull seat. Just saying. There's a lot of Red Bull drivers in the top 10. Verstappen, Tsunoda, Albon, Gasly, Sainz. 5 out of the 10, actually. Red Bull drivers in one way or another. Then outside of that, Hadjar, another Red Bull driver, could have been in the Red Bull seat. No, I'm joking. We can't be that harsh on Liam Lawson yet. Give him another few races. Alonso and Stroll start behind that in 12th and 13th place. Jack Doohan in 14th. Very unlucky, Jack Doohan. Very, very unlucky indeed. Kind of caught that yellow flag of Lewis Hamilton in the final sector in Q2. Otherwise, maybe he could have done a little bit better. Would he have got through? It would have been tight, but never know. Gabriel Bortoleto, very impressive. First qualifying session into Q2. Antonelli down in 16th place. As I say, that good surprise sort of slowly turned into a bad surprise. So Antonelli needs to do something a little bit special there from 16th place. And in his first full Grand Prix as a Mercedes driver in really tough conditions. Again, if there's a driver that you've got an eye on for maybe an incident or two, I'm really sorry, Kimmy. It's the other driver I've got my eye on. Hulkenberg in 17th place with Liam Lawson beside him in 18th place. And the 2 Hasses of Esteban Ocon and Ollie Behrman at the back of the pack. There is some confirmation of tyres then. Looking intermediates. It was looking like full wets were the choice. Full wets were definitely the choice on the lap to the grid. So Interesting that the drivers have then said, no, half an hour later or so, swap onto the intermediate tyres. Of course, the drivers always want the intermediate tyres. The wet weather tyres are a little bit of a dud tyre when it comes to the Formula One grid, but nonetheless, we do have to wait and see what the drivers pick, and they have gone for the intermediate tyres, except Lance Stroll, by the looks of things, on the full wet tyres. I'm never sure when just one driver picks the full wets. I know that they're kind of zigging when everybody else has zagged and hoping that they have a little bit of luck when it comes to the weather. Lance Stroll may be just gambling on the fact that it could rain a little bit more, and if it does come down in the same amount as it came down earlier on, Lance Stroll will look like a genius. But it does kind of look like the rain has subsided quite a bit. How much time have we got left? We've got only a couple of minutes or so until we get underway. The drivers are all in the cars. Visors are down. George Russell there, 4th place, looking very strong indeed for the weekend. Shall we move over to the slightly more detailed board? Here we are. Oops. So, crop that voice, it will annoy me. Still no radio transcriptions. That's annoying. We'll see how it goes. Let's put the investigations up. No investigations or penalties at this moment in time. There is the Australian Grand Prix trophy. I do like the trophy. Obviously named after Jack Brabham. And lovely kind of old school style Formula One wheel design / plate design to it. Can I show the race? I cannot. Also, George Russell down into turn 1 and turn 2 already, according to this. He is not. He is definitely stationary on the grid with everybody else. There is the new Tag Heuer clock above the Formula One grid. No more Rolex anymore. Here do come the drivers then. Norris and Piastri down towards turn 1. Not sure why George Russell is still showing as ahead of them. There we are. George Russell very much in 4th spot behind Max Verstappen. The two McLarens actually disappearing up the road a little bit. Hello, Brandon, mate. How's it going? Sethu, good morning. Good morning. Last time Lance was on Inters in the rain, he left the race during the formation lap. Very true. Very true. Liam Lawson starting from the pit lane. And there's Isaac Hadjar in the wall. Oh, dear, dear, dear. Oh, and Hadjar's thrown it away. It's got a broken rear wing. He's lost it into the wall at turn 2. Oh, dear, dear, dear. What's gone on then for Isaac Hadjar? Backed off, backed off. Oh, tried to floor it. And his tyres were too cold. And Isaac Hadjar in the wall before we've even started. Yellow flag in that first sector then. And this might delay the start of the Grand Prix. Oh, we were looking at the rookies and we were saying it was going to be tough on them. That is very, very tough on Isaac Hadjar. After a very solid qualifying yesterday, he was struggling a touch. And yeah, as soon as he takes the wheel off of that car, he's going to be out of it. He's trying to find the gear. But the crane is there ready. If he can't find the gear in the next couple of seconds, I feel like they're going to take that car away. Yeah, chaos even before the race starts indeed. So that obviously promotes everybody from 12th downwards. Oh, and Isaac Hadjar looks very, very upset with that. That is an aborted race start confirmed. Then yellow flag still in that first sector. So the drivers taking their spots on the grid, but we are going to have an aborted start. Lance cosplay. Dear. Yeah, everyone's going to come back onto the grid, and we're just going to have to wait a little bit longer, as if we haven't waited long enough over the winter break. But that is really unfortunate for Isaac Hadjar. I do feel a bit sorry for him. The start of your first ever Grand Prix, and you smash it into the wall before you've even really done... Well, he did one corner, just about. Then the second corner was the problem. So, not too bad. One corner out of 13, 14, however many it is around here. 14. And then you're supposed to do them sort of 59 times. So, yeah, not the greatest. Not the greatest start to a Formula One career I've ever seen from Isaac Hadjar. It's always that second Red Bull seat, second RB seat is absolutely cursed, isn't it? But Isaac Hadjar, let's not focus the camera on him crying. Jesus. He's very young. I do feel bad for him. I think he just got on the paint, maybe? Yeah. That left rear just dipped onto the white line, and whether or not that has then been the cause that has sent him spinning. But Hadjar is indeed out. So everybody from 11th backwards, Alonso, Stroll, Doohan, Bortoletto, Antonelli, Hulkenberg, Lawson, Ocon, Behrman will all gain a position due to that. Oh, yeah, even if he got that car going again, which is what he was trying to do, I'm not sure it would have really travelled that far. So the formation lap is going to start at 3:15 local time. So we are going to have at least a 10-minute wait here for the start of this Grand Prix. You can see the tyre warmers going back onto the cars, and the drivers stationary on the grid once more. Watched it live. It was so sad. I do feel bad for him. But unfortunately, that is the cutthroat nature of Formula One. Yeah, he's not having the best of times. He's crying. He is crying. Like, he's very passionate. Does allow Lance Stroll to swap onto the intermediate tyres, interestingly. So Lance Stroll, the one driver who looked like they might start on the full wet tyres, now swapping onto the intermediates once again. So a full grid of intermediates. Looking at the couple of drivers starting from the pit lane there as well. So some changes made to those cars, hoping to benefit from the wet weather conditions a little bit more. Hopefully a good race. Oh, it's going to be good. It's going to be good. But we're going to have to wait at least another 9 minutes before we get back underway again. Shall we hide this for a moment? We don't really need the full shebang, do we? Hope he has this revenge arc in the next race. I mean, Yuki Tsunoda, if anyone's on a revenge arc, it's the Japanese driver right now, isn't it? Lawson and Behrman starting from the pit lane, by the way. I forgot to mention earlier on, but we've got time now to go back over. Why did they stop? Isaac Hadjar crashed on the formation lap. So he is having that car removed from turn 2. And Isaac Hadjar out of his first Formula One Grand Prix before it even really got underway. Managed one corner, disappeared into the barriers at the second corner, and now, unfortunately, out of his first Grand Prix. Thank you, Colin, for following on Twitch. If you are sort of debating following on Twitch, I'm going to be starting doing a little bit more on Twitch over the course of this year, so well worth a follow. Also, you know, if you're new to the channel, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're trying to hit 120,000 subscribers. The content will be back in full flow soon. It's been a little bit drab over the winter. I am unfortunately moving house. So that has taken all of my time and effort, and everything that I live and breathe has gone into trying to sort out that house move. So there we are. Oh, Lewis Hamilton's dad, Anthony Hamilton there. Just supporting Isaac Hadjar. Hadjar still wearing his helmet, I think, just wanting to shield himself from the world at this point. Is the worst possible start that he could have had to his Formula One career, and clearly not very happy at all, as you wouldn't be at this point. But cold, wet, difficult conditions. He's can't be blamed. I feel like we don't really need to see it, though. I understand that you're a Formula One driver, you're in the public eye, etc., etc. But Hadjar, it's weird, isn't it? Because Hadjar was the one driver coming into this year that had kind of the least momentum, I guess, behind him. Even though he'd come second in Formula 2, there was a lot of talk about, oh, Behrman's going to be the one, Bortoletto's going to be amazing, Kimi Antonelli's going to be amazing. I feel like Hadjar was kind of the one that, maybe just because he was the last one to be confirmed and only managed to get that seat because Sergio Perez was such a flop, but he was the one with the least expectation behind him, I do feel. And unfortunately kind of living up to that a touch. But yes, almost certainly will improve his result in the next race. Look at the positives. He can only bounce back, can only get better from that. Aston Martin know that Lance Stroll can't keep it on the track, gave him the full wet. Stav's now swapped to the intermediate, so everybody on the intermediates. Carlos Sainz looking like he's on a scrubbed set of intermediates. Don't know if that's accurate, but that little diagonal line through the intermediate tyre there means that it is a scrubbed set. I don't know if that's correct, though. When would he have scrubbed those? Would have been earlier on in the weekend. My streaming service doesn't have the race. Only has onboards. What a weird balance. But you can only watch the race from one driver's perspective. Which driver would you choose? That's a tough question. So that's a good question, actually. If you had to watch this race from just one driver's perspective, right? So the broadcaster says, we haven't got enough for 20 cameras on every single driver. We haven't got enough to put cameras at every corner. We're just going to put one camera on one driver, and you can all watch the race from that perspective. Which driver would you pick? Probably not Hadjar. I'm sorry, it's too soon. I'm sorry, Hadjar. That was too soon. But whose would you pick? Maybe a Verstappen. I feel like in these kind of conditions, Yuki, yeah. Watching the race from Yuki's perspective would definitely be interesting, especially because you're going to see all four. You're going to see Norris, Piastri, Verstappen, Russell all go down to turn one in front of you, aren't you? Yeah, Yuki's perspective would be quite interesting. But then after that, do they disappear and then you just don't see the top four ever again is the problem. And then you're just watching Yuki Tsunoda defend for his life, which actually, from an onboard camera, you're not going to really see the cars behind very much. I'm assuming it's like a, facing forward view that we're getting. Gasly getting to see the Ferrari. Yeah, great shout as well. I like that all of you are sort of looking at watching the cars in front and not necessarily, for the first few laps when we get to watch the two Ferraris battle ahead of us, brilliant. And then we've just got to watch an Alpine running around in sort of middle of the road, probably 9th or 10th for a good chunk of time. But I like your thinking. Will I be doing more F124 racing with Dan No Skill and other creators? Yes, I will be. Thank you. Marky, I will be. I was supposed to be in the second race, the race where we had all of the creators. But my sim rig is currently packed because, again, I'm trying to move house. I was hoping that I'd have moved house by now. But if you've ever tried to move house, goodness gracious me, it takes forever. Hence why I'm not even moved. So I've got to move house twice is the problem. I've got to move house once, to get out of this flat because there's people that want to buy it and move in. And then by the time we found a house that we wanted to move into, we didn't want to stop the people that want this flat from moving in because they need to move in from fairly far away. And it's like, oh, okay, you can have this. We'll do that. I don't know. It's a little bit of a weird one. Oh, there is an update for multi-viewer. Oh dear, multi-viewer has crows. Right, but yeah, we are waiting on the move. Once the move is up and running, then the content will kind of be back to better. If anything, there's more stuff I've got planned once I move because I'll have a little bit more time on my hands where I'm not searching through houses. Has anyone tried to look through houses? It takes forever. You go to a house, you look at it, the pictures look okay online, you book in an appointment, you get there, it's horrendous. And you're just like, why on earth? Who did this to this house? Oh, hang on. Why is multi-viewer just decided to crash? Well, that's great, isn't it? Multi-viewer has now decided to crash. Can I get the live timings back? No, by the looks of things. Oh, come on, multi-viewer. Ah, there we go. It's back, it's back, it's back. There we go. Let's sort this out before the race actually starts, though, shall we? Feel like that would be a good plan. But yeah, moving house. I know this is slightly off-piste conversation, but you know, we go on tangents throughout the race. It's just so bad. I went to one house, right? You're selling your house. You think, right, I'm going to look after it. I'm going to maybe, you know, zhuzh it up a bit to sell it. This woman had a 10-foot Buddha statue built into the wall of her house. And she was like, yeah, you just sell it like that. It was huge. And I get it. If you're selling this to a Buddhist monk, they would be like, that looks beautiful. I'm not a Buddhist monk, and I do not want a 10-foot Buddha statue in my kitchen. But she had it built into the wall. Insanity. Like, one of the stupidest things I've ever seen. And like, the reason we looked at this house, and they didn't have a picture of that from like the perspective where you could really tell what it was. I thought it was like a print that you could maybe like peel off the wall. And I was like, oh, okay, maybe we can peel it off and it'll be okay. No. Giant statue actually built into the building. Anyhow, we are on the formation now. I'm just going to vent to you guys. It's very early in the morning. Just going to share my issues that I've been having with the whole house finding, house buying debacle. Here we are then. Not a Buddhist, but still wants it. Well, if you fancy moving to Norwich, mate, I've got the house for you because it is most certainly still on the market. However, shall we talk about Formula One? The McLaren's now coming towards that final sector. Max Verstappen, George Russell on the second row of the grid. Russell, looking okay, actually. I think Russell could maybe get a podium here. It's going to be tough, but I think it's on the cards. Tsunoda and Albon just behind. Leclerc versus Hamilton, also a very interesting one to watch. Gasly and Sainz rounding out the point scoring places. An Isaac Hadjar gap left between Sainz and Alonso. Isaac Hadjar out of the race before it even really got underway. Obviously, 57 laps of racing now ahead of us because of that aborted race start. Alonso and Stroll in the Aston Martins, technically 11th and 12th now, but they will still have to start in the same grid positions they had before. Doohan and Bortoleto, the other rookies, looking at some points. Antonelli behind. Hulkenberg, not the best of starts to his Formula One career. I mean, Antonelli. Did I say Hulkenberg? God, it's early. Hulkenberg just behind. Liam Lawson in 18th place. And Esteban Ocon and Ollie Behrman coming around too. It's going to be an interesting start, I feel, because we've already seen Hadjar lose it on the formation lap. Now we've got 19 drivers all going down towards turn 2. Still slippery out there. Still the intermediate tyres, the tyre of choice. What happened to Hadjar? Lost it at turn 2 on the formation lap and is now out of the race. Just waiting for the green flag to be waved. The final driver takes their full grid position. Green flag is waved at the back of the pack. And 5 red lights stand between us and the start of the 2025 season. Here we are then. We're underway. And Lando Norris versus Oscar Piastri down towards turn 1. Oscar Piastri gets a good start. Max Verstappen, an even better one. And Verstappen going around the outside of Lando Norris down towards turn 1. Tries it. Oscar Piastri also has a look as well, but they all get through. And everybody looking fairly clean. Carlos Sainz trying to make his way around. Hamilton versus Albon there as well. And Lando Norris leads the Grand Prix, but Max Verstappen has jumped now in front of Oscar Piastri as they go down towards turn 3. George Russell still behind. Charles Leclerc with a stunning start up to 5th place already. Yuki Tsunoda has dropped down to 6th. Albon 7th. Hamilton still in 8th place. Gasly and Sainz holding on to the points scoring positions. Alonso, Stroll, Doohan, Antonelli up into 14th place now. Hulkenberg and Bortoleto have also swapped positions. Ocon ahead of Lawson and Behrman in at 19th place. Hadjar now down at the back of the pack. Oh! And there is an Alpine car, and it looks like Jack Doohan has come to a stop. And it's going to be another stop. Yellow flag in that sector. Norris versus Verstappen down in towards turn 10. And there is the safety car confirmed. And looks like, well, I don't know, actually. He's quite a way down. Is Jack Doohan. I was going to say probably lost it at turn 5, but it's carried a lot of speed. And we'll have to wait and see. It's another rookie out of the race. So that's 2 from 5. Behrman, Bortoleto and Antonelli. The 3 that are left in the Grand Prix. And Jack Doohan out of the race just before turn 6. So you can see him there stationary. The safety car is out and just coming around towards the first corner. Lando Norris is going to catch the back of the safety car going into turn 1. And we're going to have another sort of restart of sorts. Safety car restart. 2 drivers now out of the Grand Prix already. And here we go. Here is the replay of it. Going down towards turn 5. Goes around quite nicely. Oh! And yeah, I think he's just caught him off guard. He's accelerated and just tried to accelerate quite gently, but then has lost. And Carlos Sainz is stationary. There's a Williams in the barriers as well, and Carlos Sainz is out. He's in the barrier, and that is Carlos Sainz out as well. He's dropped it at turn 14. He's in the barriers and he's gone. Let's have a little look at the onboard from Carlos Sainz's perspective. Behind the Alpine. Oh! And just loses it. Very similar to Jack Doohan. Very greasy out there. Comes around turn 13. Gets on the throttle. And just snaps. Just catches him out. And Carlos Sainz, saying the same thing. Had a massive torque surge. There's nothing he could really do about that, unfortunately, from Carlos Sainz's perspective. Wow. Okay, well, Carlos Sainz out of the race as well. We are losing drivers at an alarming rate at this moment in time. Wow. 3 drivers out then. Safety car still out. Safety car is going to go through the pit lane as to also dodge Carlos Sainz at turn 14. But that is now Hadjar, Doohan and Sainz all out within sort of, well, half a lap of racing, really. Hadjar out on the formation lap, then had an aborted start. So another Grand Prix formation lap before, hence the 57 laps rather than 58. Not really got up and running with any racing yet this year. I promise you that Formula One, the cars do go quick at some point. Just not at the moment. And that is a very disappointing start to Carlos Sainz's career in a Williams car. I was worried about that. I can't remember where I said it. I think it might have been in the predictions video, in the video where I was discussing. No, it was the video where I was discussing all of the team's biggest problems coming into the season. Still very, very reasonable to watch that, even though we are 1 Grand Prix in. You know, maybe click a video, put it on in the background whilst we're waiting for the Formula One safety car to come in. So we're still waiting for Carlos Sainz's car to be moved. Drivers have gone through the pit lane now. So everybody is going to look like they've had a stop. They have not. They just all went through the pit lane to dodge the Williams car of Carlos Sainz. Carlos Sainz was a little bit slow off the mark. Again, Lando Norris's start was not incredible, but managed to fend off Max Verstappen. And then actually Piastri gets a little bit out of shape at turn 2. And that's where Verstappen jumps up into second place ahead of Oscar. Very solid start indeed. Yuki Tsunoda was trying his best to keep Alex Albon at bay and managed just about to do so. But Charles Leclerc with a lightning quick start ahead of both the Williams and the RB before they could even really notice. Oh, Max Verstappen so quick away. Insane that Verstappen wasn't ahead of Oscar down in towards turn 1 with that kind of start, but had to back out of it. And then Oscar gets a little bit out of shape round turn 2. Max is just so good in these conditions. It is insane to me how quick Max Verstappen is in this car. Wow, wow, wow. Jack Doohan in the Alpine. Yeah. Just a big surge of torque and just on the greasy part of the track. He wasn't doing anything too untoward, though. He was just following behind the Aston Martin of Lance Stroll. James Vowles smashing up the pit wall right now. Alex Albon is still at a very, very good position. 7th place. Has opened the door to Fernando Alonso. Alonso now up into the point scoring places, of course. But yeah, Carlos Sainz just between turn 13 and turn 14. There's just no runoff area there either. It's probably the most unforgiving corner of the entire track that Carlos Sainz has buried himself into the wall of. And Carlos Sainz has got a little bit of a reputation for that. He has put himself in the wall a couple of times now in recent seasons in Australia. Well, it wasn't the wall, it was gravel when he was in the Ferrari car a couple of years ago. And that is very, very disappointing on debut for Williams. Still under safety car conditions. What happened to Sainz and Doohan? Both very similar things. Just following behind the traffic and just lost it. Lost the rear end of the car. Had sort of a spike of torque. And both of them spinning. And once they were spinning, it was all over. Unfortunately, Jack Doohan's car still in the middle of the racetrack there between, or just before turn 6. So Jack Doohan has been removed from it. I think we're just waiting on a crane to take that car up and to the side because We are still behind the safety car. I think this is going to be a fairly long safety car, unfortunately. And not too much racing as of yet in 2024. 2025 even. But 3 drivers in the wall nonetheless. Nico Hulkenberg up into P12. Kimi Antonelli 13th now. Lawson and Behrman still at the back of the pack. They're thinking it might be on the white lines. Kimi Antonelli being told over the radio, just keep an eye out for those painted white lines. They seem to be a touch slippery at this point. Could we have had a red flag? Just sort of watching cars going around. The laps are ticking away at this point. Did any of the cameras on the streams pan to Colapinto? That would have been a bit harsh, wouldn't it? As soon as Jack Doohan was in the wall, pan to Colapinto. Is Colapinto there this weekend? I haven't actually seen him on any of the coverage, but assume that he is. To be fair, you could pan to Colapinto after both of those crashes. Could have been in that Williams seat, could have been in that Alpine seat, but obviously just waiting and watching is Franco Colapinto. Definitely not going to help Jack Doohan's... Oh. And here comes a Haas car into the pits. Are they slick tyres? No, they are intermediate tyres once more. But a fresh set of, and a fresh set of for Liam Lawson as well. A little bit strange that they've left it this late, but I think they're assuming that the safety car is coming in fairly soon. And therefore a fresh set of rubber on those tyres. Little bit of a gamble. But maybe a touch too early, actually. Jack Doohan's car is still being craned up in the air. Maybe have gambled a touch early there, the Hasses and Liam Lawson. But I suppose it's tricky to judge from their perspective when exactly those vehicles will be done and dusted with Liam Lawson, Carlos Sainz and Jack Doohan's cars. Liam Lawson going in for those tyres a little bit early. Norris, Verstappen, Piastri still our top 3. Norris just following the safety car round through turn 9 and turn 10. Still no safety car in this lap. So it is all over and done with. Do we think Leclerc stands to get a podium? It's definitely up for grabs. There you go. Lando Norris getting the weather update. Oh, as Lando Norris nearly has a snap himself into turn 12. Sainz's car is now gone. So we are going to see the safety car actually go down the start-finish straight. So the number of pit stops will stop going up. Don't worry, not everybody has actually had 3 pit stops. Only Ocon, Lawson and Behrman have actually swapped tyres. But we are indeed getting another lap of safety car. I'm hoping that the safety car will be in at the end of this lap. This lap seems like a fairly good one for the safety car to come in on. Carlos Sainz's car is now removed. I think Jack Doohan's car is finally on the back of the truck. Guys, hear me out. Yuki's first podium. I think if one of the top 5 had maybe had an incident, possibly, but Sainz and Doohan and Hadjar, they don't really make any difference to Yuki Tsunoda behind, unfortunately. Yuki Tsunoda needs a collision between any of the top 5, really. Take a couple of them out of the picture for it to be within that possibility, I think, anyway. But I'd love to see a Yuki first podium. As long as Oscar gets the top step. There you go. See, we've got some back and forth in the chat. Higher or lower? Lewis Hamilton got away really well, actually, but just got bogged down behind Alex Albon and had to watch his teammate Leclerc get the better of Albon, and then also he got alongside, and then had to get out of it. Yeah, that would have been very awkward if Lewis Hamilton would have taken Charles Leclerc out on the first race that they had together, wouldn't it? Goodness me. Got a little bit dicey down towards turn 3 as well. Just in front between Albon and Tsunoda, but Hamilton there backing off and deciding not to touch the rear left wheel of Charles Leclerc's Ferrari. Probably a good shout. You don't really want that kind of coverage after your first race in red, do you? Safety car still coming around, and we have had no notification that the safety car is coming in, so it goes round the final corner once more, and we're going to have at least one more lap of safety car action. Favorite looking car this season? Racing Bulls. Racing Bulls. The white, the kind of Honda look to it. Very nice indeed. I feel like it is a little bit of a nod to the Honda cars. Obviously, the final year that Honda are technically working with Red Bull. I know that they sort of aren't and sort of are. It's a bit of a weird relationship that they've got at the moment, but Honda will definitely cut ties fully with Red Bull for next season, moving over to working with Aston Martin on their 2026 engine. How do they know which car is quicker? They all look the same to me. Watching F1 for the first time. They are all the same at the minute, but that's because they're behind the safety car. So the safety car out at the moment. They'll have different paces, hopefully, in a lap or two's time, as long as nobody else decides to put it in the barriers. Because that was a long safety car that felt. But safety car is now ending. Lando Norris. Saying that there's dry patches is Lando Norris. But yeah. Will dry up at some point. So we are going to see some drivers maybe have a little gamble onto the dry tyres. Again, it's that problem. When do you twist? Looking very wet. Still in the final sector. Still some standing water there, at least. But the safety car is ending, so Lando Norris just letting Bert Mylander disappear into the distance a touch. Safety car is ending. And we're now actually going to get underway with some racing, hopefully. Lando Norris coming around turn 11 and turn 12. Safety car is coming into the pits. Green flag. The track is going to clear. And Lando Norris is shooting off and wanting some tyre temperature. And we're going to get back underway with some racing. Here comes Lando Norris then down the fast straight down towards turn 1. Max Verstappen having a little look at the back of Lando Norris's car. Nothing doing at the moment. Oscar Piastri keeps his position. Leclerc, Tsunoda, Albon, Hamilton, Gasly and Alonso are drivers in the top 10 and currently in the point scoring places. Max Verstappen, though, still having a little look. The Williams of Albon looking at the rear end of Yuki Tsunoda. Ollie Behrman says the fastest lap of the race, of course. But no point for fastest lap this year anyway, so fastest lap just sort of there now. Is what it is. Still awarded to somebody, but not really worth anything. Max is a beast in the wet. Yeah, I am a little bit worried. A little bit worried, if I'm honest. Lando Norris. Oh, Fernando Alonso under investigation for a safety car infringement. Is Fernando Alonso. Should we have a little look? Incident involving safety car infringement. That's all it says. Lando Norris getting away from Verstappen. It does feel like as the conditions dry, it should play more into McLaren's favour. So the fact that we've had this safety car actually means that Lando Norris is probably in a better position to defend from Max Verstappen, because Verstappen set up a little bit more for the wet weather conditions, but Verstappen still looking at the rear wing of the McLaren car and not giving up the possibility of taking another victory in Formula One. Oscar Piastri also then joining them on the podium places at the moment, but just losing away in terms of pace, and falling away from the top two is Oscar. George Russell still in 4th place, Charles Leclerc 5th, Yuki Tsunoda 6th, Alex Albon 7th, Hamilton in 8th still, just behind those two. Gasly and Alonso rounding out the top 10. Lance Stroll and Hülkenberg just outside in 11th and 12th. Antonelli still running around in 13th. Bortoleto 14th. Ocon in 15th. Lawson in 16th. And Ollie Behrman at the back of the pack. And that kind of swap onto fresh intermediate tyres, not looking amazing for those three at the back of the pack now. Bortoleto has still been able to get away from Esteban Ocon. Lawson just stuck between the two of them. Carlos Sainz, Jack Doohan, and Isaac Hadjar are 3 drivers that are out of the race. Yuki Tsunoda now under investigation as well, also for a safety car infringement. So Tsunoda under investigation, Alonso under investigation, and we will keep you updated on how those play out. Lewis Hamilton on board with him, looking at the back of Alex Albon, still right under the rear wing of Albon's Williams car, but nothing going. Show the radio? I can't at the moment. For some reason, it's not working on multi-viewer. Need to have a little look at whether it's something that I've done or something they've done, but for some reason they're not loading for me. Oh, and Oscar Piastri nearly getting a little bit out of shape there. But okay, still running. Lando Norris still leading the race. Max Verstappen, though, 6/10 behind. And Verstappen actually closing that gap a touch. Just every single lap, finding a little bit of time, closing in on the back of Lando Norris's car. Lando Norris there actually, yeah, making a little bit of a mistake. Ooh, Gabriel Bortoleto reporting issues with his brakes. We're going to see another rookie drop out of this race. 2 out of the 5 already. Antonelli leading them. Bortoleto behind in 14th. Behrman in 17th. It's almost a little rookie race outside of the top 10. Lando Norris then just escaping away from Max Verstappen a touch. And now 1.1 seconds of the gap. 1.2 seconds. No DRS, of course. Still under wet weather conditions. George Russell has disappeared away from this top 3 as well. It is very much Norris, Verstappen, Piastri all on their own out the front. The gap to Russell behind just increasing every single lap. Charles Leclerc then 5th. Yuki Tsunoda still under investigation, but has got himself a nice little gap in the 6th place at this moment. Verstappen running wide to find a little bit of water to cool down those tyres. That was something they were struggling with, obviously, yesterday. That extra temperature in the tyres in the final sector, and Max Verstappen using the track to his advantage there. Just running through a patch of water. Lando Norris also doing the same down the pit straight, actually, just peeling off to the left-hand side of the track as we look at it. Charles Leclerc asking for a little bit less information over the radio is Charles. Just saying, look, I think I got this. Been a Formula One driver for a little while now. DRS is going to come on pretty soon. Oscar Piastri is within 0.8 of a second. Not too bad at all. Here we go then. Gonna have some DRS for Oscar Piastri. And is closing the gap. Closes in to the back of Max Verstappen. And DRS is now open. Charles Leclerc really struggling on those tyres now, though. Falling away from George Russell at this point as the DRS is opened up to them as well. That's very, very frustrating if you're a Ferrari fan. Yeah, gap to George Russell widening. Everybody putting in the words now. Norris, Verstappen, Piastri. Piastri closing into the back of Max Verstappen. As it stands, here comes Piastri to the rear end of Max Verstappen's car. Oh, Hamilton on the radio. Struggling with the drivability. The car is snappy, says Lewis Hamilton. And he has turned through 11 and 12, according to his engineer. Right. Currently approaching turn 11 with Lando Norris. He's still outside of DRS range of Verstappen. Oscar Piastri, though, closing in on the back of the Red Bull car and wanting to take that second place back. The top three still the same drivers that we started with. Max Verstappen getting the best of Piastri, though, at the beginning of the race. Piastri now closing that gap, wants the position back. Here comes Norris on the radio. Ooh, the rain risk is now increasing just as we're getting towards when some drivers might gamble onto the slick tyres. We're now looking at actually there's a rain risk. Oh, did. Piastri just staying again that half a second behind Verstappen, even with DRS, can't really close that gap at this moment in time. Oscar Piastri. George Russell, though, is falling away from the front pack. 6.5 seconds adrift now of Piastri. Charles Leclerc, then another 2.5 seconds. Tsunoda, 2.5 seconds. Albon, a couple of seconds. Hamilton, a second. There's no DRS inside of the top 10, apart from Oscar Piastri, who is still struggling behind Max Verstappen and can't quite find an opening to actually make that lunge. Hamilton having a little bit of back and forth. Ooh. Kimi Antonelli trying to make a move on Nico Hülkenberg, and I think he might have just done it. Antonelli up into 12th place, and Hülkenberg dispatched. So Hülkenberg down into 13th, Antonelli up into 12th. Not quite yet the point scoring places. Couple of Aston Martins to deal with before we get to there. Max Verstappen now closing in on the back of Lando Norris. Max Verstappen actually has DRS behind the McLaren car. That's not going to help out Oscar Piastri anymore. Piastri with DRS2. And the only drivers with DRS at this point. I know Hamilton closing in to within a second. But Kimi Antonelli down the inside of Nico Hülkenberg down at turn 12. Sorry, turn 11. And Antonelli up into 12th. Max now putting the throttle down. Hammering away at that gap to Lando Norris is now within a second. So Lando Norris under pressure. Maybe those tyres just going off a touch for these drivers out there, but who blinks first, or do they worry there is a rain warning still? Lando Norris just set the fastest lap of the race, though, to get himself away from Max Verstappen and outside the DRS once again. Hamilton still a second behind Albon. Still struggling a little bit on those tyres inside of the Ferrari. Being told K1, but doesn't really want to know. Just wants to be left to it, does Lewis Hamilton. Oh. And there's a little bit of drizzle coming onto the track. The McLaren team were correct with their radio messages to Lando Norris. There is now a touch of rain that is starting to fall on the Australian track. And it's just the trickiest conditions that you can ask for, isn't it? Your intermediate tyres are starting to go off because they've been too warm throughout the last few laps. You can see that dry line starting to open up in front of you. And then it starts to just rain that little bit more. Very, very difficult conditions for these Formula 1 drivers, especially... Oh! There's Kimi Antonelli going for a spin. Keeps it, though, and loses that position to Hülkenberg once more, but at least didn't end up in the barriers. That was nearly 3 rookies out. But Kimi Antonelli, I think just gets a wheel on the grass, actually. And spins around through turn 4. And that nearly got very, very close to the barriers. Kimi Antonelli with a good save there in the Mercedes. And lives to fight on for another 40 laps or so. Yuki Tsunoda and Fernando Alonso still under investigation. Still haven't had any kind of resolution from those investigations as of yet. Fernando Alonso in the Aston Martin. Still in the top 10 though. And even if he does get a penalty, it will only be Lance Stroll that gains a position. So just swapping from one Aston Martin to another. Hülkenberg 6 seconds behind. Oh, and Verstappen's gone too deep. Verstappen's gone very deep. And that's opened the door to Piastri. And Piastri has taken second place from Max Verstappen. A very, very uncharacteristic mistake from Max Verstappen there. Goes way too deep into turn 11. Opens the door to Oscar Piastri, and Piastri says thank you very much and takes second place back from the Red Bull. A very, very unusual mistake from Max Verstappen there. Why is Carlos out? Unfortunately, put it into the barriers at turn 14 on the first lap of racing that we had. And here we are then, Oscar Piastri. Now behind his teammate. Still a couple of seconds adrift of his teammate. But we now have a McLaren battle for the top step of the podium on our hands. Oh, and Verstappen it wasn't ridiculously deep, but a fraction too deep. Oh, front left lockup. Through the puddles as well, Max Verstappen. And did very well to keep it out of the gravel there, did Max Verstappen, but not well enough to keep Oscar Piastri behind. The Australian then at his home Grand Prix does takes second place back from Verstappen, and Kimi Antonelli has once again managed to get past Nico Hülkenberg up into 12th place. Hopefully won't give Hülkenberg that position back again. Lewis Hamilton now under investigation for a safety car infringement, and so is Alex Albon. So a few safety car infringements coming towards us. Still no actual determination on what's happened underneath the safety car, because still waiting on Tsunoda and Alonso to get a penalty or not. Has been sort of 10 laps since the safety car came in, so we'll leave the stewards to it. Hopefully they'll come to some kind of decision fairly soon. Here comes Lewis Hamilton then behind Alex Albon, and for the first time within half a second of the Williams. The problem is the Williams so good in a straight line. Albon, a very, very solid defensive driver. Hamilton, in his first race in a Ferrari, is not going to have an easy time of it behind Alex Albon, even if he is in the quicker of the two cars. And Liam Lawson is now putting Esteban Ocon under pressure in the Haas. Liam Lawson's Red Bull still running around in 16th place. And Max Verstappen saying, if there is any rain, we need to pit. But then being told on the other side of the radio by GP that unfortunately that would lose them track position. So unfortunately, nothing doing for Max Verstappen at the moment. We'll keep you updated on whether or not the Red Bull do decide to stick or twist when it comes to that. Ooh. Alex Albon and Lewis Hamilton under investigation. Tsunoda and Alonso still under investigation as well. But we're looking at those two right now. Albon and Hamilton having a little bit of a battle. Hamilton trying to get to the rear wing of the Williams. The Williams, though, just very good at escaping down that start-finish straight. Hamilton can't quite get the power down through turn 14 as he would like. And Liam Lawson making a move on Esteban Ocon. Is he going to be able to make it stick? Yes. Down towards turn 11. And Lawson gets himself up ahead of Esteban Ocon. So Lawson now up into 15th place. And both of the Haas's running around at the back of the pack. And not too bad at all. What's the tyre life for Inters in this race? Not too sure, to be honest with you. It depends on the problem is with intermediate tyres. It depends heavily on the amount of standing water, because they overheat so quickly if there is no water to cool them down because of the way that the rubber is manufactured. Oh, Lando Norris on the radio. Interesting. If there was a safety car, they're saying they'd stay out. But if it starts to rain more, they would definitely come into the pits. Interesting. There's a lot going on inside of all of the garages. No further action on Yuki Tsunoda and Fernando Alonso's infringements. Looks like there's no further action as well on Albon and Hamilton too. So all of those investigations and nothing coming of it. Will Leclerc catch up to Russell? Not at the moment. Unless the track dries and they get onto slick tyres, I can't really see any way of Leclerc catching up to George Russell at this point. Just the Ferrari really struggling on its tyres. You can see that with Lewis Hamilton. Hamilton's still stuck behind Alex Albon. Albon just getting a little bit more from his Williams car at this point. Hamilton keeps closing the gap, but can't get fully into range. Fernando Alonso is actually starting to close the gap on Pierre Gasly as well. He's got DRS behind the French driver. But Gasly just holding on to 9th place at the moment. Verstappen is pretty much in P3 right now. Yeah, I think it's done and dusted for Max Verstappen. Unfortunately, those tyres just seem to have completely dropped off a cliff on the Red Bull car. And the rain will stop in 3 laps, is what Piastri is being told over the radio. Looks like those tyres have just disappeared from underneath the Red Bull. I think they just everyone wants to stay out because there is still that real worry of more rain to come. But you can start to see that the tyres are going off and going off fairly quickly for a lot of these drivers out there. Do they go for a fresh set of intermediate tyres? You'd very quickly make up the lap time if you were on a fresh set of intermediate tyres. The problem is, if it then becomes dry enough, it's dear. Alex Albon still under pressure from Hamilton. Half a second between the two. Hamilton closing in again. Albon actually getting a little bit out of shape, I think, searching for a damp patch. And Hamilton has lost gear sync inside of the Ferrari now. Struggling with the tyres, lost his gear sync. Hopefully they've fixed that issue because Hamilton is a lot closer to Alex Albon than he has been in previous laps. DRS down towards turn 1. Turn 1 doesn't seem to be the overtaking opportunity that people are going for. Sort of down towards turn 11 is where most people are getting the most joy. I say most people. Kimi Antonelli overtaking Nico Hülkenberg twice, and now actually trying to overtake Lance Stroll, and I think has been able to get past Lance Stroll. Talking of Kimi Antonelli, he's now 1 place away from the points. That problem is, that 1 place is Fernando Alonso. If there's one driver you don't really want to put yourself in a battle with, a lot of the time, it is Fernando Alonso. 23 laps run here in Australia. 35 left to go. And still some twists and turns because we still don't know when the cars come in. Are they going to go for a fresh set of intermediates? Do they decide to go for a set of slicks? If you can get yourself onto some slick tyres and make them work, you could be stunningly quick. But it is who blinks first, who makes that deal with the devil. And if the rain then does come, you are all at sea, unfortunately, if you get onto those slick tyres. That's why nobody making that gamble as of yet. Still watching the back of Lewis Hamilton as he closes in on Alex Albon once more, but again, can't get to within any kind of fighting distance. Lando Norris is now a couple of seconds ahead of Piastri. Piastri has closed that gap a touch, but still well outside of any kind of DRS range at this moment in time. Max Verstappen still running in 3rd place, and after losing that position to Piastri, has really slowed down. And Max Verstappen just really struggling inside of that Red Bull car. Just looks like all the grip has disappeared. You can see those intermediate tyres now looking more like slick tyres, to be honest, on both the McLaren and Red Bull cars. But Verstappen running really wide in a couple of these corners, struggling to keep the grip now. Why is Max so slow? He wasn't so slow. Unfortunately, it's just his tyres have hit the wall first. And when your tyres go off, that is the end of your race, really. The tyres are the trickiest bit of Formula One nowadays. You know, we had that insight from Oscar Piastri over his first couple of seasons. That was the thing that really slowed him down from progressing in the way that he wanted to, was getting to grips with those long runs in the races. And again, you're looking at that now for all of the drivers on the grid, especially on the intermediate tyres. It's not a tyre that they run a lot. It's not a tyre that they get to test in testing. Oh. And Charles Leclerc looks like there is a leak in his water bottle. And his water bottle seems to be leaking. His seat is now full of water. And that is Charles Leclerc's water bottle done for the race. 33 laps left to go and no water to drink. You're sitting in it, Charles, unfortunately. So not too much happening for Charles Leclerc other than that, to be honest. He is fairly distant 5 seconds from George Russell and then a very distant 10 seconds from Yuki Tsunoda behind. So all by himself as Charles Leclerc at the moment. Yuki Tsunoda still running a lovely 6th place. 10 seconds behind Leclerc, yes, fair enough. But you wouldn't expect him to be in and amongst that top 5, to be honest. Very impressive that he even started there, Yuki Tsunoda, but has now got a 3-second gap to Alex Albon. Albon is holding up Hamilton, so none of the big boys sort of in immediate threat of Yuki Tsunoda. Tsunoda looking like a 6th place finish on the cards here. Tsunoda always does start the season well, doesn't he? We were saying this last year about him in that RB car. Always starts the season really, really well. I think this is the 3rd year in a row now where Yuki Tsunoda has sort of started the year on the front foot. And last year it was sort of all the way up until about Monaco. Then it started to go a little bit wrong for Yuki Tsunoda and the Racing Bulls team. Hopefully this year they can carry a little bit more of that momentum through the whole season. We'll obviously see if Isaac Hadjar can also get some pace out of that RB car over the next few weekends after crashing out on the formation lap, unfortunately, today. Jack Doohan and Carlos Sainz also out of the race. McLaren have such good tyre management. They really do. Really, really good tyre management. Lando Norris doing well. Oscar Piastri is actually closing in a touch, I've just realised. Now within 1.3 seconds of the race leader, Norris. Yeah, the RB car, as you say, yeah, doesn't progress enough. Usually starts the season really, really well. And then Yuki Tsunoda and the RB car sort of slowly drift away from the rest as the season progresses. They're usually still in the mix, aren't they? But they always start the season a lot better than they finish it. It always feels. And Oscar Piastri, 1.2 seconds now the gap. Was actually a second quicker than Max Verstappen last lap. That gap now to 14 seconds to Max Verstappen. So it is looking like a 2-horse race. And luckily, I'm in that 2-horse race. I'm very happy indeed to be seeing 2 McLaren cars disappearing into the distance. It's now just making sure that they don't wipe each other out, because we know that these 2 are allowed to race one another. Norris is catching up to the back of the 2 Haas cars, Behrman and Ocon, just ahead of Norris and Piastri. So some traffic to contend with soon as well. And there is Isaac Hadjar on the pit wall with the RB team. I think just apologising to the RB setup. Yeah, just not the start that he would have wanted to his Formula One career. And unfortunate. Imagine Lawson gets lapped by the McLarens. Looking very likely at this point, to be honest. Norris and Piastri much, much quicker than everybody else out there right now. Norris and Piastri holding onto their tyres much better than the rest. And Hamilton on the radio. Also just sort of getting used to his new race engineer is Lewis Hamilton. Obviously so used to Bono being on the other side of that radio. Still kind of jarred me a second there when I didn't hear Peter Bonington inside of Lewis Hamilton's helmet. Carlos Sainz there in the Williams garage also watching on after his spin at the final corner on the first lap of the Grand Prix. Albon cooking harder than ever. Albon's doing an exceptional job at keeping Hamilton at bay. Hamilton just keeps getting within half a second or so, and then Albon finds a couple attempts that he needs. Doing very well indeed. Talking of finding a couple attempts, Kimi Antonelli is now within the DRS range of Fernando Alonso. So he's finding a bit more pace. And Oscar Piastri is also now within DRS range of Lando Norris. Obviously, Oscar Piastri getting ahead of Max Verstappen when Verstappen made an error. Not going to be as easy to get past Lando Norris today. Norris looking very comfortable indeed in that McLaren car. But Piastri now with the better pace of the two McLaren drivers. Youngest versus oldest driver battle. Yeah, for points as well. Fernando Alonso running 10th. Kimi Antonelli wanting a first point scoring place in Formula One on his debut. Could be a very interesting little battle here. Piastri getting the applause of the crowd as Piastri and Norris make their way past Ollie Behrman. Going through the back markers. Lando Norris, obviously, with that bit of DRS, just helped him out a little bit. But then Oscar Piastri right back onto his rear wing once again. Piastri still within a second of his teammate. One Lando lockup could easily turn the tide here. You're quite right, Lily. Just incredibly, incredibly close. And whether or not the drivers can hold their nerve. We've seen papaya rules last year. Are we going to see any papaya rulings this time around, or going to see a full race between the two? Piastri is right underneath Lando Norris's rear wing. This is home Grand Prix, first Grand Prix of the season. Sets the standard for the year, doesn't it? If Piastri can overtake his teammate. And we're going to see it happen. Oh, apologies. The track map seems to have had a moment. But we are back then. 30 of 57 laps done. Piastri on the radio. Ooh. Being told to hold position is Oscar Piastri. Hold position. Being told that they want to deal with the back markers first and foremost. Piastri saying, look, I'm quicker. And I think he's right. Thank you to Dan for subscribing to the channel. If you are new, hit that subscribe button. Hit the like button as well. Why not? It's completely free. Massively helps out the channel. And it might just help McLaren convince Oscar Piastri to actually stick behind Lando Norris because he doesn't look like he wants to. What happened to Hadjar, Doohan and Sainz? All collisions with the barriers in slightly different ways. Hadjar on the first formation lap, which then led to us having a second formation lap as they cleared away that RB car. Jack Doohan then lost it on the first lap of racing just before turn 6. Carlos Sainz then also lost it on the first lap of racing. Under safety car conditions, though, down towards turn 14. So, tracks are there. Instead of showing the penalty section, I can't really show the radios. For some reason, it's not loading for me today. I'm trying to disconnect it. I mean, I can show you it, but it's not going to say anything. Just says no transcription yet. For some reason. Show you the track limits. It's not a lot there either. Antonelli and Lawson, the only couple of drivers with track limits infringements. Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri coming past the pit wall. A second, the gap now between them. Piastri has lent off a little bit by the looks of things and just disappearing away from his teammate. 16.3 seconds behind. Ooh, Zach Brown says time to go racing. So maybe we are going to see a little bit of racing between the two. And I'd love to see a little battle between Norris and Piastri to kick this race up a touch. Has been a little bit dry so far. Well, wet on track, but dry in terms of things that are actually happening. Leave Hamilton alone. I think they're just struggling to kind of have a bit of back and forth, aren't they? The two, Hamilton and his new race engineer, are still learning about one another. Still trying to understand what the dynamic is going to be between the two of them. And it's going to take a couple of races for them to get properly in the swing of things. Have a game of Mario Kart while we're in a train. That sounds great. I would love a game of Mario Kart on the train. Piastri has fallen away from Norris now. 2.5 seconds. The gap, as they're still making their way through the back markers. Norris and Piastri getting past the Red Bull. And Piastri has been told we are free to race now, as he is falling behind to now 3 seconds the gap to Lando Norris. Liam Lawson moves out of the way of Oscar Piastri. And now Oscar has been given the go-ahead to try and catch the back of his teammate. But can he do it? That's the thing now. Alonso is catching up to the back of Pierre Gasly. Gasly, also Kimi Antonelli was kind of closing in on Alonso, but less so now. A couple of seconds still the gap there. Still going to be some twists here because there are going to be some slick tyres, surely, that come on into this race. Oh! Fernando Alonso spun! And Fernando Alonso hits the wall, and Fernando Alonso is out. Out of turn 7. Gets all out of shape. That's going to be a safety car, and going to be an opportunity for those guys to come in and pit. McLaren have got a little bit of space. Is it going to be the slick tyres? Hard tyres coming out of Ferrari, so it is going to be slicks. And the safety car is now confirmed. So once again, we have a safety car. And Antonelli up into the point scoring places. Fernando Alonso losing it through turn 7. And under the safety car, there's going to be a lot of drivers coming into the pits here, surely. Tsunoda coming in, Albon coming in, Hamilton, Gasly there as well. Antonelli looks like he's boxing 2 behind. Box for Lando Norris is the call as well. They're probably going to have to double stack the McLaren cars. And it is all chaos at this point now. Safety car is in. It's going to force everybody to make their decision. And Oscar Piastri drops back a touch from Lando Norris. Norris now coming through into the pits. Comes Lando Norris, our race leader. This needs to be a swift stop. Is pretty good. Piastri then comes in behind. Is a double stop. Hard tyres onto Piastri's car as well. And Pretty solid indeed there from the McLaren cars. Verstappen then also coming into the pits was for 15, 16 seconds behind Oscar Piastri anyway. Goes on to the medium tyres. Does Max Verstappen. 23 laps left to run in this race. Safety car has picked up some of the back markers. George Russell now finally gets to come into the pits as well. And George Russell onto the hard compound tyre. Here comes Charles Leclerc. And Leclerc opts for the hard compound tyre as well. So it's a little bit of a mix of hards and mediums throughout the grid. Sonoda on the mystery tyres. So yeah, Sonoda's one hasn't updated for some reason. I think a little bit, multi-viewer is having a bit of a weird day today. There's a few things on the multi-viewer app that just aren't working for me, unfortunately. I do apologise. I'll have a little chat to the guys at multi-viewer afterwards just to see if it was just me or if it is sort of an everyone kind of problem. Lando Norris then still leads this race and is trying to catch up to the back of the safety car. Obviously, the cars that were lapped are going to be able to unlap themselves, which is why you see the guys disappearing ahead of the safety car as the safety car is trying to catch up to the race leader. And there is Lando Norris. Well, it's Lando Norris catching the back of the safety car, not the other way around. So Hamilton now struggling. Fernando Alonso's car is still there at turn 7. Fernando Alonso is not. McLaren lockout looking that way. But onto the hard compound tyres. Verstappen on the medium will close the gap. Obviously, the gap was up to 16, 17 seconds from Piastri to Verstappen. That's now going to close in once again. So the whole field is going to squidge back up and just concertina back together again as we go onto the slick tyres. Oh. And that was where it all went wrong for Fernando Alonso. I think he just got too much onto the paint. And a snap. The rear end just completely lost. And that is Fernando Alonso done and dusted in this one. Fernando Alonso again out of the race. That is very unfortunate for Fernando, actually, because that would have just caught him out completely. There's not too much he could have done there, I don't think. He didn't even actually touch the gravel, did Fernando Alonso? It's just kind of, the car has just let itself slide away from him. And there's not really too much he could have done. Lando Norris's pit stop again. Lovely and smooth. The double stack. And the papayas are looking good. A lot of traffic, though, still behind the safety car. Hamilton sounds so mad on the radio. I think they're just still... Ooh. Is that an unsafe release from the Stakes Sauber team? I think it might be. Liam Lawson has to get out of the way. Don't know which of the Stakes Sauber cars that was in the pit lane, but Lawson... it was Bortoletto. Bortoletto, I think, will maybe get an unsafe release penalty there. But yeah, Hamilton, I think they're still just learning each other, aren't they? It's the first race with a new race engineer for the first time in a very long time for Hamilton. So, and it's a tough race, a very, very tough race for any driver who's coming into a new team. Ooh. Still looking like there might be rain to come. Apparently, if you're reading into Oscar Piastri's radio messages, the rain to come, saying that it might be between lap 45 and lap 50, though. So if there is rain, it's going to be in a few laps' time. And the McLaren cars still leading the race. Bortoleto and Ocon will have to sort of unlap themselves in a moment, just waiting for that unlapping clearance to come. It's looking dark, though, actually. Now that I look at it. Very, very dark indeed. Lando Norris just trying to evade the truck that is in front of him. Ooh. Oh, Lando Norris being told on the radio it's going to be class 2, class 3 rain. That would be chaos. If that kind of rain comes, that's like pretty hardcore rain. And if that does come, even for a lap, everybody now on slick tires. Ooh, that would not very fun for those drivers out there. Carlos Sainz crossing the pit lane. Out, of course, in his first lap in a Williams car. And not really much that he could do about it, unfortunately. Very similar to the Fernando Alonso incident that we've just seen. Just complete snap that would have caught him out. Lando Norris and the McLaren team still unsure on the radio. And this was what we had a little bit last year, wasn't it? That uncertainty over the radio, the discussions going back and forth. I don't mind them discussing it, but when it comes to it, I think they need to be decisive. And we'll see. There is a very dry line there. But hence why the drivers have opted for the dry, slick tyres. But if any kind of rain comes, all of that water is just going to be kicked back up again. And the track sodden. Still, the safety car runs around, though. If the rain is heavy, Ferrari might get a podium using a wet setup. So, maybe. The problem is, it's also looking like the rain won't last for very long. So yeah, a lot of the teams that are running kind of more of a wet weather setup, I think we're hoping for a lot more rain than we've actually had. So we haven't really had much rain since the start, to be honest. Like, it was torrential before the race began, but since then it hasn't come down in any sort of ferocity. Little dribbles here and there around the circuit. But not currently raining at the moment. Just saying that there might be rain on the way. Safety car, though, still running around. The back markers still yet to unlap themselves. Because we've still got Gabriel Bortoleto between the two McLarens. And Ocon on the radio says, look, I get why we're staying on the intermediate tyres, which they are. Ocon and Behrman both on intermediate tyres, actually. So Haas gambling on the fact that there will be a lot of rain. But as Ocon just said, if there isn't any rain in the next sort of 4 or 5 laps, it's going to very much play against them because everyone else is going to be able to disappear up the road. And the difference between the slick tyres and the intermediate tyres in terms of just out-and-out pace is obscene. Like, the Haas cars will be nowhere near the pace of the cars on slicks. Safety car still coming around. Bortoletto, Ocon, Behrman, Lawson all need to unlap themselves still. Hulkenberg at the back of the pack at the moment. Why is unlapping taking so long? Because unfortunately there's still a lot of debris of Fernando Alonso's car on the track. So Fernando Alonso unfortunately parked his car. I say parked. Smashed his car into the barriers. A very awkward spot of the track. Can't really get to it very easily. So there isn't the same sort of craneage that we've got as some other Grand Prix. They have to sort of use a little crane to put the car onto the back of a lorry, and then the lorry has to then take it off the circuit, and you have to get the lorry to the car, get the lorry away from the car. And where Fernando Alonso's car was parked was a pretty tricky part of the track to access. So that's why the safety cars are taking quite long today. There's Jack Doohan. His Formula One debut also ending not how he would have wanted it to. Fernando Alonso, the first driver to crash that isn't in a brand new car for the season. Sainz making his debut for Williams. Doohan and Hadjar and the Formula One debuts entire. Oh no, sorry, Doohan did make a debut at the end of last season. Completely forgot about that one race that Jack Doohan got at the end of last year. Please tell me what's the point in watching a watch-along when you can watch the race on TV with commentary? Some people can't. And also, like, it's a different perspective. We have a lovely little community here. We have a little back and forth. Just a bit of a different sign. Why safety car? Fernando Alonso, unfortunately, has put himself in the wall. Ooh. There we go. We're finally getting cars unlapping themselves. Bortoletto and Ocon and Behrman have now made their way past the safety car. Liam Lawson as well. Which means the lapped cars can now go around and catch the back of this train. Safety car then will be at least one more lap, I would imagine. Maybe two. Oh, Norris on the radio being told that it is still damp. And to be careful. And also the rain on the way. They're just sort of trying to decide which way are they going to go. If it does rain. Oh, Lando Norris locks up behind the safety car. As Esteban Ocon was trying to get past. Oh, it's all a little bit chaotic at this moment in time, especially with that rain coming. Ocon and Behrman do decide to come into the pits then. Had got the intermediates on. Now some slick tyres going onto those Haas cars. So 7 minutes time we're being told that the rain will come. That's now going to really annoyingly mean that Ollie Behrman is going to have to unlap himself again. Oh, and he's all out of shape and nearly hits Max Verstappen there. Safety car in this lap. And Max Verstappen is going to be massively annoyed because now he's got Ollie Behrman, who should have been unlapped, but has then decided to pit super late. The whole point of the unlapping the back markers is so that this doesn't happen. And now, so annoying. Ollie Behrman I like, all right? But that is annoying because now Max Verstappen is going to be at a disadvantage. And Ollie Behrman nearly takes Max Verstappen out anyway. And he is unlapping himself, actually, at this point. So Behrman is going to go past the safety car. But the safety car is coming in. So Behrman's also just going to be a lap down on everyone else. Absolutely pointless from Haas there. Behrman now completely screwed. Is going to be a lap down. Look how far he is from like Bortoleto and Lawson, for instance. Could have been right behind them. But there we are. Anyway, safety car is in. Lando Norris now backing up the pack. Oscar Piastri was the quicker of the two McLarens before the safety car. Can he be the quicker of the two again? And the battle between the two papaya cars will run for at least 17 laps. Green flag is waved. Lando Norris decides to get away early. And Lando Norris now going down towards turn one. The slick tyres are on and the racing begins once more. Lando Norris down towards turn one. Piastri looking in his wing mirrors rather than looking ahead. But Verstappen can't do anything this time around. George Russell also in fourth place. Haven't really seen much of him today. He's been in a bit of a no man's land. But now within a couple of seconds of Max Verstappen. But the front three seem to have escaped away from him. And here we go. Oh, in 3 laps, class 3 rain expected. Cool, that is a lot of rain if it is class 3. It was saying class 2 on the McLaren radios. Ferrari saying class 3. Goodness me. Thank you for subscribing, Dark Matter. Appreciate that, mate. Here we go then. Oscar Piastri, within a second of his teammate, will get the DRS once it's re-enabled. And Oscar was looking very quick indeed. But the tyres have changed. The circumstances have changed. Is Oscar still going to be able to have a go at his teammate? And the racing, well, Zach Brown has said they're allowed to go racing. There's no back markers to contend with at the minute. Ollie Behrman, the closest back marker. McLaren now. Can they stack their pit stops if they need to? DRS is now enabled. So who is going to have DRS? Yuki Tsunoda is within DRS range of Charles Leclerc. So is Alex Albon. Albon's going to have DRS behind. Hamilton's got DRS. Gasly's got DRS. Antonelli up into the top 10 also has DRS as well. Here we go then. Tsunoda under a lot of pressure from Alex Albon, and Tsunoda, who was having a very comfortable run in 6th place, now all of a sudden has to wake up a little bit. Ooh. And the rain is supposedly coming. Lando Norris asking about whether or not to come in sooner rather than later. They don't want to jump too early, though, and this is where I said I want the McLaren team to be decisive this season. It was something that really cost them last year. And the rain could get pretty intense, is what we're being told on the radio. Still no rain at the moment, as we can see from the weather radar, but supposedly on its way. And it's just going to matter where you are, right? Going past the pit lane. Ah, there you go. Gabriel Bortoleto does get that penalty for an unsafe release. So Bortoleto, a 5-second penalty. And it's all getting very congested. Oh, Yuki Tsunoda has made a move on Charles Leclerc. And Tsunoda is up. Charles Leclerc, though, trying to get back underneath the Japanese driver down towards turn 3. Big look up from Tsunoda, but manages to just about hold it out. And Tsunoda holds on to that 5th place. Charles Leclerc now down in 6th. And the Williams very, very tightly packed between the two Ferraris. And Russell being told on the radio as well that the rain is going to be heavy enough for intermediate tyres by the looks of things. Thank you for the couple of subscriptions that we just had there. I'll get back to you in a second. But Tsunoda, Leclerc, Albon and Hamilton are almost 4 abreast. All incredibly condensed. Charles Leclerc desperate to get back ahead of the RB car. Yuki Tsunoda then peels to the right-hand side. Charles Leclerc down in towards turn 11. He's going to go for it, but doesn't this time. Oh, and there's the two McLarens. The two McLarens have touched. And Oscar Piastri's out. Verstappen takes second. I think Norris has peeled into the pits. And Piastri is out. Oh, dear, dear, dear. It's incredibly wet by the looks of things down there. Norris then into the pits. Verstappen takes the lead. Russell peels into the pits. So does Albon. That releases Yuki Tsunoda. Charles Leclerc has come in. And Piastri is now out of the race. And, Piastri still trying to get back moving again. Doesn't look like it's going to happen, though. And now Lawson side by side with Lando Norris and causing Lando Norris a headache. This is where Lawson could actually play into the Red Bull's favour, because Lawson now is next to Norris. And if Lawson can hold up Lando Norris whilst Max Verstappen pits, Max Verstappen might come out in the lead of this race. Lawson just needs to hold up Norris if he can. This is the teammate now. Duality of this. Piastri is rolling back onto the track, and Piastri might be able to get going again. He gets back onto the tarmac, does Piastri, and Piastri's away. Piastri is still in the race. He is going to be a lot further down the track than he was, but he is not out of this Grand Prix yet and peels into the pit lane. Tiptoes into the pit lane does Oscar Piastri. He is going to continue on. Verstappen being told to stay out. Verstappen trying to live with the wet weather conditions. Verstappen now staying out. Hamilton also on the hard compound tyres. Tsunoda on the mediums. Wow. So the intermediate tyres are on. And Oscar Piastri also opts for the intermediate tyres as well. The rain is coming down. And Verstappen just being asked to try and live with it. Lando Norris has been able to get past Liam Lawson there on the intermediate tyres. So Lawson not able to hold up Norris anymore. Norris is actually going to lap his teammate in a second by the looks of things. Verstappen on the radio, 8 seconds the lead Max Verstappen has, but Lando Norris is 18 seconds behind. So if Max Verstappen does pit, he will still come out behind Lando Norris in this. But Lando Norris on the intermediate tyres and Max just being told to try and live with it. It is treacherous around that final sector. Turn 11 and turn 12. There is so much rain teeming down in that third sector. How Max Verstappen is living with this, still being told to stay out. And no, Verstappen does come in. Box, Verstappen does come in. How much time would he have lost there, though, by staying out that extra lap? Because he had to tiptoe around that final sector. The intermediate tyre call does look to be the correct one for Lando Norris. Hamilton staying on the slick tyre, stays out. Is so slow, though, Hamilton. I don't think that's the right idea. Charles Leclerc also deciding to stay out on the hard compound tyre. But Lando Norris now making his way past Charles Leclerc and is going to catch up to Lewis Hamilton pretty swiftly as well. Oh, and there's a yellow flag, and it's Bortoleto. Bortoleto is spun, and so is Liam Lawson. Liam Lawson's also spun. Bortoleto at turn 13, Lawson at turn 2, and there's 2 yellow flags being waved. Both of those cars don't look very good. Both of those cars look like they're going to be out. So it's Bortoleto and Lawson both in the barriers. Lawson in particular looks like he's taken a good chunk out of the Tech Pro. And Lando Norris has taken the lead of this race then. Hamilton in second place. Verstappen is back up into 4th. Is this going to be another safety car? Yes, it is another safety car. Oscar Piastri then. Here's the replay of the incident. What happened here? Norris went wide. That sent Piastri wide as well. Lando Norris managed to get it back on the tarmac before, but Piastri went too deep on the grass and then didn't have enough grip to get round turn 13. So both of the McLarens, that's what I thought they touched, because both of them were in the gravel, but it wasn't actually. It was Lando Norris went through the gravel first, then followed by Piastri. So both of them through the gravel. Hamilton and Leclerc did decide to stay out, and Hamilton and Leclerc now miles adrift. Leclerc also with a spin. Hamilton's into the pits. Leclerc's into the pits as well. This is not going to be good for the Ferrari cars at all the way towards the back of the grid then. Hamilton and Leclerc are going to fall out of the point scoring places. So is Yuki Tsunoda. And I told you there was going to be a twist in this race. I told you there was going to be a twist as soon as the intermediate tyres were available versus the slick tyres. There's teams that stick, there's teams that twist, and you never know which way is going to be the perfect way to run. Hamilton, Leclerc, and Tsunoda will be absolutely gutted, though. They'd all run in the points consistently throughout the entire Grand Prix. Then the safety car bunched them up once again with Fernando Alonso's crash. And now we've got another safety car. After they bunched up together, Lawson and Bortoleto now out of this race. So Lawson, Bortoleto, Doohan and Hadjar of the kind of rookie drivers. I know Lawson isn't technically in those rookie drivers, I guess, with 10 Grand Prix worth of experience, but it's his first full season, let's say that. So 4 of those 6 drivers all out of the race. Only Kimi Antonelli and Ollie Behrman who are there. And guess what? Kimi Antonelli up into 5th place. Just kept himself nice and clean. Bortoleto gets all over the white paint is what sent his Steak Sauber car spinning. And on the paint, get some torque, and round the car up went, oh, actually, I think that right rear tyre had come loose before he even hit the barriers. That's very strange. And Liam Lawson did exactly the same as Isaac Hadjar did at the beginning of the race. That's 2 Red Bull drivers that have made that mistake. Down in towards turn 2. Nearly connected Nico Hülkenberg as well. Hülkenberg, though, gets out of the way. And Hülkenberg now up into 7th place. And how the tables have turned. The 2 Ferraris now running 9th and 10th. Tsunoda running outside of the points. So is Piastri, by the way. Piastri now down in 13th. And suddenly we've got Norris still leading, Verstappen in 2nd, maybe the 2 you'd expect. Russell is up into a podium place. Then behind that, Albon, Antonelli and Lance Stroll have all absolutely gained massively from this. Hülkenberg up into 7th place is ahead of Pierre Gasly. Gasly's been running in the points all afternoon, Hülkenberg nowhere near it, and suddenly Hülkenberg gets the jump. Wow. Hamilton not very happy on the radio at all. Back down into P9. Is ahead of his teammate Charles Leclerc after Charles Leclerc had a spin. Chances of Alvin getting a podium. Assuming you mean Antonelli there. Or Albon. Either of those. Not huge. I'll be honest. George Russell has been running a pretty solid race. The Mercedes hasn't had the pace of the McLarens or anywhere close to the Red Bulls either, but there was a little bit of contact maybe between Leclerc and Tsunoda possibly. Tsunoda all over the rear end. Here's Charles Leclerc trying to make a move on Pierre Gasly. Oh, goodness me. And that's where Leclerc got all out of shape. And Leclerc on the slick tyres, especially through that final sector, just absolutely dead man walking, and Hamilton and Leclerc both deciding to stay out on the slicks was the nail in the coffin that Ferrari strategy team did not need. Williams' podium is not too far adrift. I wouldn't get your hopes up, though. George Russell has been running pretty well today. Unless there is a mistake from Norris, Verstappen, or Russell, I don't think Albon is going to get there on pace, is what I'm trying to say. Lapped cars may now overtake the safety car. That was a message from a very long time ago. Ocon and Piastri almost catching up to the back of the pack as it is. Where's Ollie Behrman in all of this? Oh, Behrman is in that mix. So Behrman now, that was what the message was for. Ollie Behrman is the one that needs to do some overtaking and is now passing the safety car. So Ollie Behrman again in a position where everybody else passed the safety car a long time ago, and he's the one man left in the pack. Ollie Behrman, though, disappearing up the road. Come on, safety car in this lap. Let's give us a little bit of racing towards the end here. Verstappen versus Norris for the lead. Could all end in tears. How did Piastri lose position? Went into the gravel through turn 12 and just got all out of shape. And then spun just before turn 13 onto the grass. Looked like he was going to be out of the race, to be honest. Hadn't collided with any of the walls or anything like that, but just looked like that car was beached in the grass. Piastri, though, did just about get it running again, but lost nearly an entire lap whilst he was trying to get the car running again. He's now down in 13th place. Only Ollie Behrman behind him, but Piastri is going to be at the back of this train of cars as they come round the final couple of corners. Still the safety car stays out. Had Piastri not gone into the gravel, Piastri might have opened the door for himself to get up into the lead of this race, at least for a moment. What happened to Ollie Behrman? The Haas strategy team just decided to absolutely throw his race away, to be honest. Like, he was never running anywhere close to the points or anything, but the Haas team got it all wrong in terms of strategy. Haas got it all wrong to begin with, then Ferrari got it all wrong after that. Tsunoda and the RB team also just got their strategy calls all in a muddle today. So a lot of the drivers, unfortunately, caught out with the weather changes and losing positions because of it. Both of the Ferraris now at the back of the points in 9th and 10th. Tsunoda now out of the points after running 6th comfortably throughout almost the entire Grand Prix. And the safety car is ending this lap. Safety car is ending this lap, so we are going to see at least a few more laps of racing, unless somebody else decides to collect the barriers. That is Lawson, Bortoletto, Alonso, Sainz, Doohan, and Hadjar all out of the race. 14 drivers still running. Ollie Behrman a little bit far adrift, so 13 drivers still in this mix. And with the safety car coming in, the race isn't over yet. Going to get 6 laps of racing, and it's going to be pretty tight, you'd imagine, between these two, Norris and Verstappen, looking at one another. Norris checking his mirrors almost constantly at this point. George Russell will sniff the opportunity, an outside chance of a victory. Alex Albon in the Williams behind as well. Fancy a chance at a podium place. Kimi in P5, of course, won't say no to a podium either. But the green flag is waved. Lando Norris gets us back underway again after the 3rd safety car stop. And he has disappeared up the road from Max Verstappen, trying to escape the Red Bull as quickly as he possibly can, and goes down towards turn 1. It's going to be fairly comfortably ahead of Max Verstappen. There's a good restart from Lando Norris, keeping him safe himself safe. Lando Norris, though, Max Verstappen getting all out of shape at turn 2 might open the door to George Russell to have a little look at the Red Bull. Decides against it. Albon in 4th place, Antonelli in 5th. And they've sort of disappeared up the road. Lance Stroll struggling in that Aston Martin car, already 2.5 seconds adrift. Nico Hulkenberg up into 7th place unexpectedly as well. Gasly running 8th. Leclerc and Hamilton still 9th and 10th. Esteban Ocon has managed to get back past Oscar Piastri as Piastri tried to get past the Haas car on the restart. Yuki Tsunoda still stuck in 11th, just outside of the point scoring places. Max Verstappen outside of a second, so no DRS for Max Verstappen, not that it's enabled yet anyway. George Russell also trying to keep himself within touching distance of Verstappen. It would be very, very entertaining to see a Max Verstappen versus George Russell battle to end this Grand Prix, wouldn't it? Oh, Charles Leclerc actually got the jump on Lewis Hamilton. I hadn't noticed that the two Ferraris have swapped places. So Charles Leclerc up into 9th place, Hamilton in 10th. Leclerc getting the jump on his teammate at the restart. Kimi Antonelli, the only driver in the top 5 with DRS. Will the DRS be re-enabled again? It is still technically wet conditions, but the rain has come to a stop. So they could enable the DRS after 1 lap, but not as of yet. Oscar Piastri has managed to dispatch Esteban Ocon, and now Yuki Tsunoda as well. Piastri up into 11th place. And the two Ferraris now ahead of Piastri is not where he would have expected to be, considering how well he had run for the majority of this race. Charles Leclerc has got the bit between his teeth. He is now right under the rear wing of Pierre Gasly's Alpine, and Charles Leclerc, you can almost feel the frustration in his driving. He is going for all kinds of maneuvers, left, right, and center. Has a little look at Pierre Gasly, but doesn't go for it through turn 10. Oh, gets a little bit out of shape into turn 11. And Charles Leclerc needs to just contain a little bit of himself. A touch composure wouldn't go amiss. But I can understand why he is trying to get back ahead of as many cars as possible, because he should not be down in 9th place. Oh my goodness me. Piastri also going very quickly indeed. Lando Norris has managed to eke out a sizable lead, 1.7 seconds now. George Russell then 1.4 seconds behind that. Albon is the only driver under pressure in the top 5 right now. Kimi Antonelli right behind him, and Charles Leclerc is going to make that move on Pierre Gasly. Gasly tries to defend Charles Leclerc, going around the outside as they go down towards turn 3. Hamilton trying to be opportunistic and get the move done as well, and does. So that's both of the Ferraris ahead of Pierre Gasly. As quickly as one moved past, the other came past too. Gasly now down in 10th place, and Gasly could be out of the point scoring places by the end of this lap. Oscar Piastri right under the rear wing of Pierre Gasly's Alpine, and that Alpine suddenly looking like it's going to not score any points this weekend. That would be very disappointing for Pierre Gasly after a very strong showing from him. Gasly and Tsunoda, of course, ex-teammates, will now be running 11th and 12th by those things. No, Gasly closes the door on Oscar Piastri for now. DRS is now enabled as well, by the way. DRS is enabled. Are we going to see Kimi Antonelli be able to use that DRS to his benefit? Antonelli within 0.6 of a second of Alex Albon now coming down the straight. Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton were struggling behind Alex Albon earlier. Hamilton in particular was just stuck behind Alex Albon for a long, long time. Can Kimi Antonelli, Hamilton's replacement at Mercedes, get the job done that Hamilton couldn't? Albon still, though, putting his Williams in the right place at the right time. Goodness me, this is going to get close between the Mercedes and Williams cars here. The front three looking comfortable at this point. The podium places seem locked in. Here comes Piastri once more on Gasly down in towards turn 3 and finally gets that move done. Piastri up into the point scoring places once again. The 1 point solace from the 18 points that looked almost guaranteed just a few laps ago. And there was the mistake from Gasly. That's what opened the door to Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton. Down in towards turn 1, got a little bit wide, and then through turn 2, over the grass went Gasly. And that's why Leclerc and Hamilton were both able to jump in front of Pierre Gasly down towards turn 3. A couple of laps ago. Nico Hülkenberg is doing an exceptional job. He's 2 seconds ahead of Charles Leclerc at this point. Just managed to escape away from all of the chaos that Nico Hülkenberg could be looking for points on his Stake Sauber debut. Took Sauber all of last year to score some points. They're going to do it first time around with Nico Hülkenberg inside of that car. Lando Norris then under pressure from Verstappen all of a sudden. Verstappen has decided with 2 laps left to go, he's going to get himself inside a DRS range. Maybe the battle for the top step of the podium isn't over. Verstappen, DRS down towards turn 3. Lando Norris managed to fend him off and keep him at arm's length for now. And Norris being told, you do not have to over push this. You've got the pace advantage over Verstappen. Even if he does have DRS, don't over push it. I'll tell you what, if there is a Norris versus Verstappen collision here, which happened a good couple of times last year, it's not out of the realms of possibility. We could be looking at a Russell, Albon, Antonelli podium. Especially as Antonelli is now making a move on Alex Albon. Antonelli gets past Alex Albon and Antonelli up into 4th place. Say Antonelli again. I will. Antonelli up into 4th, just behind his teammate George Russell. Antonelli, though, under pressure. Under investigation for an incident of an unsafe release. Here we are then. Across the start-finish line come the 2 leaders. Lando Norris and Max Verstappen start their final laps. Half a second between the 2 of them, and this could be our title battle in 2025. Max Verstappen dropped away from these front 2 McLarens as his intermediate tyres went off, but is now right under the rear wing of the McLaren of Lando Norris. Norris, though, looking fairly comfortable and actually extends that lead by just a couple of tenths of a second, as he needs to do on this final lap of racing. Turn 6 and turn 7 completed. He's halfway around as Lando Norris, with half a second between him and Max Verstappen, and between the first victory of the 2025 campaign. Max Verstappen has led the Drivers' World Championship for over 1,000 days, and Lando Norris might be the man to dethrone him from that spot and lead the championship for the first time in his Formula One career. Just a couple of corners away from it. Max Verstappen isn't making it easy, though. He's keeping Lando Norris under pressure. Norris needs a couple of really solid corners. Turn 13 complete. The crowd stand to their feet as Lando Norris completes turn 14, leads that McLaren car round the final corner, down the straight, and takes victory in Australia. Lando Norris, the man of the moment, and he now dethrones Max Verstappen at the top of the championship for the first time since the Spanish Grand Prix in 2022. That was the last time that Max Verstappen was not leading the Drivers' World Championship. Goodness me. Congratulations, Lando Norris. A stunning drive from him. 3 safety cars thrown at him. 3 safety cars dealt with. And Lando Norris, the title favourite, you would say, for 2025, considering how good that McLaren car's looked this weekend, is starting it with a bang. Max Verstappen second. George Russell came home in 3rd place. Alex Albon came home initially in 5th, but Antonelli was given a penalty for an unsafe release, so Antonelli drops back to 5th place. Lance Stroll managed to come home in 6th. Nico Hulkenberg in 7th. Charles Leclerc was 8th. Piastri did manage to get past Lewis Hamilton at the end there. Piastri up into 9th. Hamilton rounding out the points scoring places. A solitary point for Lewis Hamilton in his first race at Ferrari. Gasly, Tsunoda, Ocon and Behrman, the 4 drivers that finished outside of the points. Liam Lawson, Gabriel Bortoleto, Fernando Alonso, Carlos Sainz, Jack Doohan and Isaac Hadjar all out of the Grand Prix with various different problems throughout the race. Wow, wow, wow. What a race it was. Goodness me. Oscar Piastri. Let's have a little look then at this move on Lewis Hamilton. Final lap move from Oscar Piastri around turn 9, deep into turn 10, and gets that move done. A lovely little overtake, actually, from Oscar Piastri to double his points total for the first Grand Prix weekend from 1 to 2. I don't know how much solace that will give him. Should have been at least 18 points there, really, shouldn't it, for Oscar Piastri? Until that mistake was made. I think he was just put off by the fact that Lando Norris made a mistake in front of him. Then Piastri made a mistake. And Verstappen was right in the mix there. Had Verstappen not stayed out for those couple of laps, could have maybe been leading this Grand Prix ahead of the McLaren of Norris, and then they would have needed something a little bit special to get back into the lead here. But as it stands, Lando Norris takes the first win of the 2025 season. And as I say, is the only driver to have taken the lead of the Drivers' Championship since the Spanish Grand Prix of 2022 from Max Verstappen. Verstappen has been top of the tree since then. 2022. Wow. But Lando Norris started first, finished first, and takes the victory. I'm going to leave you guys there. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you are new to the channel, leave a like, subscribe, all of that good stuff. It really does help out the channel. And a couple of videos coming your way, I think, off the back of that Australian Grand Prix. Just was looking so good for so many drivers and then completely changed towards the end. But as I say, I'm going to leave you there. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in a week's time for the Chinese Grand Prix. We are back at it all over.